Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Richard, and welcome back to another stock market outlook video sponsored by MarketSmith. As always, we're going to run through the major indexes, talk about some potential leading groups and sectors, and then also cover some key stocks, including the mega caps, as well as a few names I'm watching very closely right now as we continue with this strong potential rally going on right now. So first things first, looking at the Nasdaq Composite, we'll take a look at its current action, how it performed last week, and then dive into this recent move and kind of talk about a few character changes. And if you do enjoy my analysis at any time, please go ahead and take the time right now to leave me a like down below. It helps me out and my channel immensely. And subscribe if you want to see more videos just like this one every single week. With that said, let's dive right in. Last week continued the strong potential tradable rally that we're experiencing right now. We're finally above the key 200-day moving average in black here, and we're above a rising 21 and 50 SMA. So in terms of those timeframes, we're in a short-term uptrend, and we're just kind of starting, the potential move higher through this longer-term trend indicator, but it's still not, increasing or even really flattening too much, and still definitely an area of interest. Now looking back, you can see that in previous rallies right here, we chopped around for quite a bit, and we're kind of above that level for the time being. So I'd love to see us stay that way and maybe have a consolidation above a retest at the top of this prior range and a reconfirmation higher, just as we've kind of been doing during this move. Now, resetting this here, you can see that we've got kind of two higher lows forming. We've got the pullback into the 21 EMA here, strong confirmation upwards, strong move up, then a nice upside reversal. And this is actually on a day that we gapped down and closed very strong. Another indication that, the trend might be changing. In strong markets, we open weak, but close strong. In weak markets, we open strong and then sell off and close weak. So it's good to see kind of that confirmation. And just in general here, we've had some bad news come out with the Microsoft earnings, and the markets kind of shook it off and finished higher, which is another strong indication that we could be experiencing a little bit of a trend change. And it's definitely time to be paying attention and testing out trades as well. Let's reset this one more time here. This move really started from this bar right here. You can see a pickup in volume slightly, and you can see we pushed lower. We undercut the low of this prior day, closed very strongly, and basically through the top of this range that had been forming here. If we draw these bars in, you can see we basically undercut it and then closed even above this level. It's not above this high, of course, but if you look at this general range that we had been chopping in, you can see we closed above it, and this started another push higher. We didn't closed terribly well on this day, and then this day we kind of retested the top area of this prior range, but we kind of reconfirmed, retook that 21 EMA, and now we're above a rising 21 EMA. And here we had a downside reversal. The expectation is some short-term weakness. We did get that. We got some fall through, a gap down, closed right above the 21 EMA, but instead of breaking down, which we easily could have, you can see that we reconfirmed to the upside, took out this high, and strongly kind of took out even this pivot as well. And even on this day, as we gap lower, undercut this prior consolidation pivot, we closed strong, and that basically strength has continued here, and we're through the 200-day moving average as well as the top of this prior range. Now, we're definitely short-term extended, in the short term, of course, but that's just kind of showing the strength that we're seeing under the surface, not just on the indexes, but in many kind of, stocks as well. Now, the mega caps have kind of rallied from oversold conditions. That's definitely true. Tesla, we'll look at that chart in a little bit, and there's lots of rallying that had been sold off quite hard, but there's also some new merchandise appearing, and we'll go through a few names at the end of the video, so make sure you stay all the way until the end there as we go through that. So a lot of good things happening, of course. Continue to manage risk. I mean, even in a strong bull market, you want to manage risk, and we could be seeing a potential start of a rally, and we're definitely in one right now. I know a lot of things have been working recently. If you look through charts, there are a lot that look a lot better than the major indexes, and that's kind of that kind of makes sense because leaders lead the market, and a lot of them are well off their lows. They're trending above their longer term moving averages as well as their 21 and 50 SMAs. So look for those names that are really standing out, and names that are coming off the bottom. They can work for trades, but they're not really going to be the next big leader for the most part. Some will do quite well, but I'm always looking for new merchandise that are making new highs, breaking out of first and second stage bases, early stage bases, and especially focused on recent IPOs and names that are really turning things around and have fantastic fundamentals along with superior technical price action. So that's the Nasdaq Composite. And let's move on now to the S&P 500. Okay, so bringing up this chart, you can see it's definitely stronger than the NASDAQ recently. And you can see we formed a nice higher low well above these lows while the NASDAQ corrected all the way down to this prior level. Recently, the NASDAQ has been a little bit stronger during this rally, but it's just kind of a higher beta index for the most part. But we're above all the key moving averages, above the 200-day moving average, and kind of testing the top of this prior area. So I'd love to see, a pullback, consolidation, maybe to 4,000 and a nice even whole number, and then reconfirmation to the upside, and just basically continue to form higher highs and higher lows. So that is the S&P 500. Not much to say about those key moving averages at this point. 200 days still declining, but we're through that level. And I'd love to see some consolidation to kind of, shake off a little bit of excess before continuing on and reconfirming to the upside. Looking at the IWM, you can see that we've been, pulling back, declining for quite some time, and just now we're potentially starting once again a nice move up. We've got a higher low forming here. We're right near the top of this prior range, just up against it, and we're above all the key moving averages. The 200-day moving average looks like it's flattening a little bit more than the SPY as well as the NASDAQ Composite, and we'll have to see what happens. I'd love to see kind of smaller caps start to lead, and we'll have to see what happens, but nice action here, reconfirmation here as well as here, and above a rising 21 EMA moving towards the top of this range. Once again, I'd love to see some consolidation, chop sideways. 1 week, just a few days would set up some amazing charts, some nice handles, and then that gives us spots to trade against, some higher lows where we can manage risk against using stop losses. So that is the IWM. Looking at the IWO, which is kind of a little bit more growth focused. This is maybe even a little bit stronger and basically shows the same price action as the IWM. Looking at the FFTY, let's bring up this ETF here, moving higher, which is good, still below declining 50-day moving average, as well as well below a declining 200-day moving average. Looking at ARC, this has rallied pretty strongly over the past month or so, but still is 75% off its highs, I believe, and still below declining 200-day moving average. And most of the names within this index are just kind of rallying from deeply oversold conditions, and I'll be looking, as I mentioned, for new leadership. So that's pretty much it for the indexes. Going back to the NASDAQ Composite, it's nice to see us back above that 21 EMA and basically forming those short-term higher lows. And I'd love to see us kind of consolidate a little bit, pull back, set up those charts, and then reconfirm to the upside. But at this point, I think you can kind of trade individual stock charts on its own merit, because the NASDAQ is above the 21 EMA, or rising 21 EMA. So you've kind of got the benefit of the doubt working for you. But we'll have to see what happens, and definitely be on the lookout for a trend change from this point, undercutting these lows, slicing through the 21 EMA on volume. That would be an indication that, things aren't quite right still. It's not all rosy. And it's just a reminder that you have to manage risk and be ready for anything. We do have the FOMC next week, and that definitely could cause some volatility. So be aware of that. And, I wouldn't be surprised to see, some big down days, even if we do continue higher in the near future with all that volatility next week based on the news events. So that is the NASDAQ Composite. Let's move on now to a few ETFs. SMH is acting super strong. A lot of the names are acting really well. NVIDIA looks very similar to this chart here, forming some higher lows, as well as back above a 21 EMA and rising 50 SMA. So nice action here. Definitely an area to fish in. Solar has been, come and go. It's not as strong as it was. FSLR, bringing up that individual chart, is acting really nicely. ARI is still at a key spot here, right at this level under 24. But there's not kind of that widespread action that I love to see. MAXN also, I believe, looks pretty good. Got to kind of pivot right here. But ENPH, the other kind of big leader that everybody was watching, is still in a downtrend. So a little bit mixed from here, and there may be better options than the solar group. Moving on, let's take a look at the mega caps. Just run through these real quick. We've got Tesla rallying super strong off lows. We've got earnings here, earnings surprise as well. We're back through the 50 SMA, back above a rising 21 EMA. But this is it's a move that isn't quite sustainable. So definitely expect some chop, some price action, declines here as it kind of bases out. What would be constructive is a pullback, a flag, reconfirmation to the upside. The 50 SMA kind of rallies below it, and we just kind of continue to see that. Right now, this is kind of unsustainable. All these gaps definitely showing power, definitely showing strength, but you've got to wait for a spot to manage risk, and you can't expect a move like this to continue forever. So that is Tesla. Bring up Apple here. Similar action, super strong move into the 200-day moving average. Definitely a level of interest, and we're extended into that. So expect some chop, some sideways action, but it's good to see us back above the 21 EMA. Microsoft, excuse me, you can see isn't quite as strong, but still moving higher into that declining 200-day moving average. Be aware of that, as well as the 250 level. You can see that this has been a spot where we've been rejected down from in the past, and we'll have to see what happens this time. A nice upside reversal here after that earnings report. Bring it up, Meta. You can see nice strong action, but once again at a key level. So, be aware when these mega caps are at these key levels. We could see some wide moves in the market just because these have such a big weight. And we'll have to see how this deals with the declining 200-day moving average as well as the 150 level. But I love to see us kind of back through this key level and above a rising 21 EMA. Moving on to Amazon. Also strong action off lows, back above a rising 21, and looks like maybe just barely a 50 SMA, but this is kind of flattening, but still below declining 200-day moving average. Have to get above this spot as well as get back above this long-term moving average. Moving on to a few individual names. We first got CRDO. Great price action, super strong off these lows, breaking through the 15.5 level, as well as this kind of earlier pivot. Really nice action, nice volume as well. We're at a key spot right now, so expect some volatility. I'd love to see, a little bit of a base consolidation, a 10-day consolidation, let that 21 EMA catch up a little bit, and then kind of reconfirm to the upside, get some short-term pivots before making its way towards that all-time high breakout. But you don't always get what you want, and we'll have to see what we get. But nevertheless, you have to find a spot where you can manage risk if you're not already in this one. AHR, another one that's been super strong, very similarly, super extended here. Going over to a weekly chart, you can see this is already into all-time highs. And you can see really nice action on the weekly here, fishing right near the top pretty much all these weeks on pickups and volume, which is great. And going over to the daily chart, really you could have bought it in your earnings here. There hasn't been a clean classic base entry, but eventually this will pull back into the 21 EMA, 50 SMA, and form a base. And we just have to be ready for a low risk, high reward potential entry. So that is AHR, definitely a name to watch and have on your radar. ARHS, this is also super strong, trending above the 21 EMA, kind of a base breakout through here, as well as, a little bit of a base on base almost here. Nice action. I believe this was earnings, or not quite. Earnings are due in 40 days. Nevertheless, a nice gap up, moved higher. Maybe they pre-announced, and looking at the weekly, I like how it's kind of rallied right to the top of this range. Once again, very extended. And I'll love to see some consolidation, 2 weeks, and then reconfirming higher. But that is ARHS. Definitely a name to have on your radar. Nice earnings growth as well. China names as well continue to act super strong, and many of these bottomed well before any of the US stocks. Really nice action, just trending above that 21 EMA. Definitely, short-term extended. I'd love to see another base pull into that 50 SMA, but definitely a name to have on your radar. Another name I'm watching is STM. Very similar to a few of the other ones I brought up, moving out the right-hand side of a really large cup. And look at this weekly breakout, super strong action, and we'll just have to see what happens. AI was another name that caught my eye on Friday. Very strong action, the highest volume in quite a while, but keep in mind that this still has a lot of work to do, and we're well below all-time highs. There's a lot of overhead supply with this one, but if you're a short-term momentum trader, maybe if it flags out, you could play a continuation move, but this is kind of a short covering type rally that I'm not super interested in personally. Also, just bring up NVIDIA, which I mentioned earlier. Very nice action off lows. We're at a kind of key spot right near 196 and actually through it. So I'd love to see actually a retest, form a handle, some type of mini consolidation, let that 21 EMA catch up to price, and then reconfirm higher, and you can manage risk right here. So we'll have to see what happens. Remember that, the overall market, a lot of individual stocks are stretched, but, at the beginning of a strong move, things can get more extended than you think. But you always have to manage risk, and there'll always be that pullback entry if you just wait and are patient. So with that, let me know your thoughts down below on the market and any names that you think I should have on my radar down below. Apologize for my voice. I'm still recovering from a little bit of a cold here. But if you did enjoy this video, please go ahead and leave a like down below. I'd really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys in future videos. Take care.